This is a huge one because you don't want to have a conversation with someone who they may mean the world to you. We all have people in our lives that we love dearly, and we know that there are certain things we just should not go to them. We just shouldn't go to them with this stuff. This is not their strength. This is not their strong suit. They're either going to be so cutthroat that they're going to make you feel worse than you already do, or they want to chastise you, or they tend to make you feel worse than you did before you went to them. You need to be aware of that so that you know this isn't the person to go to.
This is the Joy Act, where finding joy beyond divorce begins with your understanding that the depth of your heartache shows the depth of your capacity for joy. I'm Dr. Lisa Summerour, and together we'll use accountability, alignment, communication, and trust to transform your journey. It's time to step into the Joy Act.
Welcome to the Joy Act, where accomplished women come to learn how to overcome heartache, rebuild their confidence, and live with joy after a divorce. I'm accredited breakup and divorce coach, Dr. Lisa Summerour, and each episode I come to you with strategies, stories, and guests who want to remind you that even though divorce is an ending, it's also the beginning, and you get to decide what that new beginning looks like. And I want to remind you that you can find joy beyond your divorce. So this episode, I have my notes here. I'm usually over at my desk, and I wanted to sit here at the table today. So I have my notes in front of me, no computer. But today I wanted to talk to you about something that came up in a leadership call I was on last week. And at some point, the facilitator said something that I hadn't heard in a while, but I believe it 100%. And that is, asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It's not a failure. It is actually a sign of strength. And when she said it, it just stayed with me for a day or two. And I decided, I really want to talk about this because one of the challenges I think many of us go through, and I say us because I have been there, when we go through something difficult, like a difficult breakup or a divorce, is not asking for help or feeling uncomfortable about asking for help. And there are reasons that can happen. Personally, I believe it's also a sign of personal and professional maturity, a sign of healthy EQ, and it's a sign of growth. And I'll talk about those things a little bit later. But I want to break it down. I want to start off with why some people struggle to ask for help, especially when it comes to a relationship coming to an end. And one of the reasons, I'm going to tell you a personal story first. I am a recovering perfectionist. And I actually have a phrase that I coined. I literally just a few weeks ago put in for a trademark because I have been saying it for so long. It didn't really register with me. And I was in a chat and I said it, and someone on the call was like, oh my gosh, you need to make sure you trademark that. And I literally, while we were on the call, went on and started that process because I was like, she's right. So I am a recovering perfectionist. And one of the challenges for me dealing with perfectionism is feeling like I'll figure it out, I'll do it. And I got just enough of my dad in me to believe, and at least if I do it, it's going to be done right the first time. Is that always the case? No, but that's kind of what goes on in your head. Or even if it's not done right the first time, I know I'm going to stick with it until I figure it out. And part of me is like, I don't want to put that on somebody else. Another part of me is, well, maybe the other person's not going to be as diligent about trying to find the solution as I am. And so there are all sorts of reasons. If we have any perfectionists, if there are any other perfectionists out there, you can just raise your hand silent. No one can see you. You can just raise your hand and go, oh my gosh, I get it. I understand. Been there. And so this whole idea of perfectionism, really wanting it to be right, whatever that is, it's got to be not just right, but perfectly right, can keep you from asking for help for a lot of reasons. And I'm not judging. This isn't about the reasons being good or bad. They just are, and they become a barrier to you being able to ask for the support that you need. Another thing is fear of being judged or being perceived as incompetent. And there's something about it being so personal, being a relationship breaking up, being so personal, that the incompetence is about not being able to manage your own life, right? And so that whole idea or that feeling, that thought that you put into your own head, because it's very likely Nobody has actually said this to you, but it's your self-talk that's stuck in your head, and it's going around on a loop, and you start believing it like everyone has said it. It's been confirmed, affirmed, and it just is. And the reality is it's stuff that you're making up in your head. It's limiting beliefs. It's BS that you are taking as fact, okay? BS as in bullshiggity. Another reason people struggle to ask for help is there's a belief that self-reliance is a sign of having it all together, or if you want to take it to an extreme, superiority. Like there could even be a little snobbery around the fact that I don't ask people for help. I got this. I can handle my own stuff. And most of the time, you probably can. All of the time, I don't think any of us can all of the time. I think we either go without or we bust our behind to try to figure a solution out when we could have gotten help and gotten to a solution a lot faster and had the support that we needed on route to it. Shame around needing support. Just the fact that you even need help, it makes you feel some kind of way, and it makes you feel so inadequate that alone keeps you from asking for it, even though at that point you actually know you need it. Isn't that something? That's like being in a really bad loop. You could have been brought up in a family or a culture or an environment where handle it yourself is sort of the mantra. It's like, oh, we don't need anybody. We got this. This family does this. Everybody can figure it out. You can handle your life. You know, whatever comes your way, you're going to take it head on. And you know, whatever that looks or feels or sounds like for you. And I know there are some people out there that got raised in environments where handle your business was sort of just what you did, you know, from being a little kid. It's like, man up, you know, put your big girl bloomers on. And is there a time for that? Absolutely. I think there are times in our lives when we need to challenge ourselves to just face whatever it is that's in front of us, because we need to prove to ourselves that we're capable of handling certain things. And even if we fail, you prove to yourself that failing isn't going to kill you, right? That you can recover even from things not working out. So there's even a lesson to learn in that. But if you grew up or have gotten to a place in your life where handling everything for yourself, by yourself, is just what you've done, then asking for help is likely going to be really difficult for you. And here's one that might be really, it could be real. Is that what I want to say? Here's one that's not just real. It could be recent. That's what I was looking for. Past experiences where you've asked for support and it's led to being disappointed or feeling rejected. And so if that has happened, there may be a fear or anxiety that builds up around even asking for the support, because you're almost bracing yourself for the disappointment or the rejection. So to avoid it, you just don't ask. You just decide, you know what, I'd rather do it on my own. You know what, I don't even want to have to deal with that. We have a lot of phrases and things that we say to position ourselves to not ask for help. So you can, if you catch yourself thinking things like, or even saying to somebody, oh, I would go to them for help, but then I got to hear blah, 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 blah. Oh, I would go to them for help, but then if I do, I'm going to owe blah, 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 blah. Think about that when these things come up. Matter of fact, write them down. Folks know I'm big on journaling. Write those little phrases or those thoughts that pop into your head, write them down so that at some point you can go back and look at them and ask yourself, number one, is that statement true? If I ask my friend, sister, niece, cousin, aunt, whomever it is, for support in this one particular area, is it likely that they're going to come back to me and say I owe them? Like, is that something that you're feeling? Is it a sense that you have? Is it something that you just want to avoid even being a possibility? Or are you like, do you have proof that that's likely to happen? Or is this your way of just not asking them for help? And then the other thing is, even if they did it, what difference does it make? What difference does it make? You know, whatever the concern is that you have made up in your head, if you realize that it's real, oh, I knew it. I knew if I went to them, I wasn't going to hear the end of it. There's a way for you to address that as well, because right now that should not be your concern. Your concern is there's something going on and you could use the support. And are you going to ask for the support? So those are ways that we struggle, that people struggle asking for help, or some of the reasons why people struggle. So I want you to reframe how you're looking at this. I want to give you something that's a little bit more supportive, that will encourage you when you get to a place where you go, you know what, I really could use some support. One of them is to look at this as a sign of strength. I 100% believe the facilitator that was leading our group last week, it's true. Asking for help is definitely a sign of strength, because it's you recognizing when you are at your capacity and you're taking an action that's going to continue to move you in the direction you want to go, right? So whether you're maxed out in energy, in time, in knowledge or skill, whatever it is that you don't have at this point that you need to get you to the next thing, the next step, you don't have that. And asking for the support from somebody who can pick up the slack wherever you're slacking or fill in that gap, that is a sign of strength, because it's you acknowledging this, wherever it is I'm trying to get to, whatever it is that I'm trying to do, it's actually important to me. And I am doing what I need to do to see that I can make this happen. So that's a sign of strength. Another one is it's a maturity, whether it's something in your personal life or your professional life, accepting that you don't know it all of the time, and that you can't do it alone all of the time. That's just a sign of maturity, because I used to tell people, if God had wanted us to do everything by ourselves for ourselves, he could have just put us all on individual planets, but we're on this one. Knowing who to ask and how to ask, and when to delegate. Now, I work with accomplished women, so a lot of the work that I do with them, even though it's around a breakup or a divorce, it rolls over, or it includes, I should say, what's going on in the workplace. And some of them are business owners, some of them are both. They have a full-time job and they're running their own thing. And so I tell them, we have to look at how this impacts you at work, because I know that there are some similarities and there are some behaviors that we're consistent with. We show up at work sometimes the same way we've shown up in our home. And if we have a difficult time asking for help in our personal lives, there's a good chance that very often professionally, we also struggle with asking for help. And the fix on that is also true. If you can get to a place where you're learning to ask for help in your personal life, you're going to have a lot more, it's going to be a lot more likely that you're going to be able to do that when you get into your workspace as well. So professionally, knowing who to ask, how to ask, and when you should delegate, right? Which is another way of asking somebody. It's like, I'm going to ask you to take care of this, however, whatever you're delegating looks like at your job. But that's another way of asking somebody else to take over something, even if it's their responsibility, right? And so getting in the habit of this, practicing this in the places and spaces where you can practice it, is how you will get better at it. Another way to reframe this so you see it as something positive as opposed to a negative is, I look at this as a sign of intellect or intelligence, because you're seeing help as a tool that's going to help you be more efficient and effective. And it's a growth sign, right? This is a step into growth, because it's you realizing, I am stronger with somebody else who's operating from their strengths. And so being able to tap into that, having that other person as a resource, that's a smart move right there. That's a smart move. And then you just heard me mention growth, but all by itself, this is a sign of growth, because you're embracing this interdependence. That's a sign of leadership. Good leaders are not trying to do everything by themselves. They're learning how to empower individuals in the team, individuals around them. Something else that I think I had in my notes later, but it's popped into my head now, is, we talk about being able to, it's being able to give, that it's a wonderful thing to be able to give. And it is a beautiful thing to be able to give, If you have a giving spirit, if that's how you've been raised to be able to do for others, that's a wonderful thing. But I want you to think about something. If you are always the one giving in your circle of friends or family, if you've become so accustomed to being the one that people come to when they need something, How do you give them an opportunity to understand what that feels like if you're never receiving from them? So a short way of saying that is bless folks with the opportunity to give to you. Okay. And you need to experience that too. You need to know what it feels like to be on the receiving end of somebody else's blessing. And when you're going through a difficult breakup or a traumatic divorce, or it's gone on for a long time, it's been emotionally trying. Yeah, you do want to be smart. You want to know who to ask and what to ask them for. What do you need? But you want to know that there are people in your life that you can ask, and you should want to go to them for the support that they might be able to give you. Is that going to be everybody? No. And that's part of that whole smart part, where you got to be intelligent enough and make sure you're going to the right people, because people can disappoint you. Matter of fact, people will sometimes disappoint you. That's what people do. And I think the other part of this is understanding that even when that happens, you're equipped to deal with that. And that's one of the huge things that I work with women on that are going through my program, is understanding that even if things don't work out the way you would like them to in any given moment, I want to equip you with the tools that you need and the emotional fortitude that you need to understand that you're going to be able to handle whatever does happen. And for a lot of people, that is the biggest thing that they get, is understanding I'm still going to be okay. Matter of fact, I'm going to be better than okay, because this is not going to take me out. So some of the ways that asking for help have come in, play for me. I talked about me being a perfectionist, and I just thought about just different areas of my life where it's like, man, me asking for help really made a huge difference. One of them was years ago. I lived a block away from my parents. They were living on one corner, and I bought a house a block away on another corner. And so me and my dad and another neighbor shared lawn tools and equipment and all that sort of stuff. But I was going back and forth from Jersey to New York on the train, and for work and for auditions. And one day my dad said, "Why don't you just hire the landscaper?" And my first thought, and what I said to him was like, I don't want to pay somebody to come and do my lawn. I can do my lawn. Now, mind you, me doing my yard took most of a Saturday. It was a good portion of the day that was going to be spent out in the yard. If it was, cutting the grass and edging, it depends on if it was that major lawn day where you're actually edging the grass along the sidewalk and getting the weeds out of, or some of the plants that had now, they're kind of dying and you got to pull them all up and get all of the, it could be 5 hours, outside fooling around in the yard. I had a corner lot at the time. And so when my dad said that, I was like, oh, that's no big deal, because I had watched him do it and I had watched my grandfather do it. So in my head, if you owned a home and you had a yard, this is what you did. And my dad said to me, your time is more valuable than the time than what you would be spending paying somebody to take care of your yard. He said, your time is more valuable. How smart was he, right? And it worked. It worked. So I hired, I think his name was Mr. Ransom. Anyway, I can remember the first day that I turned the corner to pull into my driveway, and I saw that my yard was done. And it was like a Friday, I think. And I actually teared up. Like, I didn't even know how relieved I was going to be not having to do my yard. Now, there's always something. If you're a homeowner, or you already know, there is always something that you can find to do, right? But that wasn't going to be it anymore for me. And from then on, I don't think I ever cut grass at that house again. Because my dad was right. My time was actually more valuable than the time that I was, than it was donating it to doing my yard. There were other things that I could have been doing with my time and should have been doing with my time. And that wasn't one of them. Another thing that I've come to learn, I really appreciate hiring people who love what they do. And I hired a landscaper who was not just good at what he did, but he loved what he did, which made him even better at what he did, because he put care and attention into it. And he knew a heck of a lot more about taking care of a property than I did. And so, it wasn't me having to learn what I needed to do with certain shrubs, or how they should be cut, or when they should be cut, how low I didn't have to worry about that. I hired a professional That's another thing that professionals do. We hire professionals to do stuff so we get professional work. And if you have ever had friends or family come over and help you with things that none of them were professionals at, you already know what I mean. Um, Another thing that I've done over the years when I realized I needed help was therapy, right? Treating myself to therapy. I met a therapist years ago. We were in a heritage group together. And we were just talking one day and we started talking about family, and she was telling me how she had taken care of her mom and had to relocate. And then she relocated because one of her brothers got very ill. And she said, you know what? But every time I move, she said, the first thing I do after I figure out where I'm going to be living is I get a therapist. She says, it's the gift that I give myself. And shortly after that, she recommended a therapist for me. And, the therapist is, at that point in my life, the therapist is the one who helped me realize that the relationship I was in at that time was zapping the life out of me. And she was worried about it zapping much more than that. But I was just losing energy. I was spending so much energy on this relationship that I was just exhausted and borderline depressed, And so that, for me, getting that kind of help was emotionally and psychologically. It was to the point where one day I called my doctor, and when I told him what I was experiencing physically, he said, I want you to get up and go right now to the emergency room. He was like, I want you to just drive yourself right now to the emergency room. When you get there, tell them, this is when you know you're of a certain age. He said, tell them your age and give them my information and tell them that I told you to come. And I'm not kidding. It was like a gurney came out of nowhere and just swept me down a hallway. He was worried that I was having a heart attack. Fortunately, I wasn't. It was a lot of stress and anxiety, and I was having a physical response to that. So, knowing that the therapist was tuned into this, and even that, call to my doctor. How many people maybe have the same experience and they think nothing of it. They don't want to be a bother. Oh, it's probably nothing. It'll go away. And so getting to a place where and believe me, I don't want you to think that, oh, this is so easy for me. It took me a long time. I can remember the very first time. It wasn't the first time I had ever asked for help, but it was the experience that reminded me or showed me how resistant I could be to asking for help. And it was many years ago. I was not working. I was in an apartment and rent was coming due, and I didn't know how I was going to pay rent. I was going to be short for rent, car note, whatever it was. Money was low. But I was really active in my church, and it was just a little church, but we did what we could for the community and helping people. And I knew other people had come in need and we were able to take care. And I was like, you need to let the pastor know that you need some help. And I was like, oh no. So it was probably several things. There was some pride in there because I was the person people get help from, not the person who, that whole story. It was that feeling of, man, I can't believe I've let myself get to a place where I even need help. It was all the things, many of the things that I shared with you a few minutes ago. And so I use that as it's sort of like the pen on the board for me of when I realized I flipped from thinking I didn't need to get help from other people or thinking I needed to handle all the major stuff on my own, all of that, to realizing, no, there are people that will be here to help you when you need them. And sometimes you just have to ask. And so they did help. My church was able to help. So that was another one of those incidents for me. More recently, I just hired an executive VA, a virtual assistant. I have renamed her an executive virtual assistant. And I'll tell you, as soon as I realized I was going to hire her, the anxiety about stuff going on with work, how I was going to get things done, that sense of, I got more relaxed and I feel much more settled with what's going on at work with my business. And I feel more like a boss. I feel more like a boss on many levels and in many different ways. I just feel more solid in terms of what it is that I want to get done every day, and knowing that I have support, that I literally have support. That's a phone call or an email or a text message away. and that I have somebody to help me plan things out. And so that is a huge relief for me. And it's going to allow me to be much more effective and much more productive and have fun with what I do. And hopefully it's going to prevent the overwhelm, right? And the overwork thing. Thank you for watching, and I hope you are enjoying this episode. If you know that you want to get some support, if you are ready to ask for help, take a look at this.
You've built a successful career, checked all the right boxes, but after divorce, why does it feel like everything is falling apart? Searching for answers online at 2 a.m., it will not bring you peace. Neither will pretending you're fine when inside you're anything but.
I remember those feelings, the exhaustion, the anxiety, and the frustration from feeling stuck. It seemed like no matter what I did, I could not figure out a way to move past the pain. If you are dealing with a divorce while you're also managing your career, I've been there. Things didn't get better for me until I stopped waiting for time to heal me and I took control of my own healing. And that's how this came about. That's why I designed the 4 essential steps to creating joy after a difficult divorce. It's a free masterclass for accomplished women just like you who are ready to move forward.
It's time to break the cycle. Imagine waking up feeling lighter, knowing exactly what to do next, and rediscovering your joy, not just surviving, but thriving. In this free masterclass, you'll learn the biggest mistakes that keep you stuck in divorce pain, why traditional recovery methods don't always work for high-achieving women, and the 4 essential steps to rebuilding your confidence and joy. Give yourself permission to stop reliving the past and start designing the future you deserve. Register today.
The link so that you can get to 4 essential steps to creating joy after a difficult divorce, that link will be in the information below. So how do you ask for help and do it effectively? We've talked about some of the reasons that people don't ask for help. We've talked about reframing what it means to ask for help. I've given you some of my own personal examples about what the benefits that have happened to me, the benefits I've experienced because I did ask for help. You know what? I'm just sitting here thinking, I've been talking about the great things that have happened, some of the benefits of me asking for help. I could probably do an entire show on some of the things that have happened when I probably should have asked for help and I didn't before I started getting a little smarter, right? So write some of yours down too. Can you think back over some times when you're like, yeah, that was one of those times I think I would have been good if I had asked for some support there. So let's look at how to do this. How do you ask for support, especially going through what you're going through? Because I do share with people, your friends and family want the best for you. They're likely going to want the very best for you. And there are certain things that they can give you. And then you need to be aware of the things that they can't give you. That's why there are professionals out here like me. That's why professionals like me have therapists and coaches. I haven't had a therapist in a couple of years, but it's been a long time since I've been without a coach, because that's somebody that is going to ask me questions that I might not ask myself. They're going to hold me accountable, and they are going to do it because they love what they do and they are really intentional about supporting me and achieving the things that I said I want to achieve. So you want to make sure that, one, before you start asking, identify what it is that you need. Identify what it is that you need, and you need to be honest with yourself. What exactly do you need help with? And this is going to help you weed out who you should even go to ask for the support. Because if you know you need somebody who's going to just listen, because you just need, maybe you're like me, I work things out by talking out loud. I talk them through. If that's you and you just need somebody to listen, you don't need somebody that's going to bombard you with all of their solutions to this problem, then you don't want to go to that person who you know always wants to give you the answers, who always wants to tell you what you should do, because that's not going to give you what you actually need. So even if it's something as simple as, I need 10 minutes to vent and I just want you to listen. That's it. That's what you ask for. If it's, I'm packing up my clothes to leave, or, we're filing for divorce, or so-and-so has asked me to move out or whatever it is, and I need a place to sleep for the next 2 weeks. That's what it is. But the first thing you need to do is be really honest with yourself and identify what it is that you need. Then I just talked about this. Choose the right person or resource who has the skill, the wisdom, and the expertise that you lack, or the space that you need. But the skills, the expertise, and the wisdom, this is a huge one, because you don't want to have a conversation with someone who they may mean the world to you. We all have people in our lives that we love dearly, and we know that there are certain things we just should not go to them. We just shouldn't go to them with this stuff. This is not their strength. This is not their strong suit. They're either going to be so cutthroat that they're going to make you feel worse than you already do, or they want to chastise you, or they tend to make you feel worse than you did before you went to them. You need to be aware of that so that you know this isn't the person to go to. And maybe you're at a point where you do want to go to therapy, or you do want to get a coach, and you want somebody to just brainstorm with you or say, look, I've identified a coach that I think I want to work with, and I just want you to take a look because I'm feeling good about this. I just want your opinion. And that's all you want. But sometimes that second opinion is good, right? So figure out what it is that you want, and then choose the right person or resource to go to for it. And then you want to be very clear and very direct about what it is that you need. So don't beat around the bush. A couple of weeks ago, I had someone tell me that she has a small business, and there was a program that she wanted to enroll in, and it was kind of pricey. And she said, and I didn't have the money in my bank account, my business account right then and there. She said, but I had a couple of clients who were on retainer, and someone suggested, well, why don't you get an advance from just that one client, and it'll cover this bill, this payment. And she really struggled. Again, I don't want to look bad to the client. Well, the client's going to think I don't know how to run my business. All of this stuff went through her head. And she finally just decided to suck it up and ask the client. Except she didn't just ask the client. She went into a whole, I want to talk to you about something. There's something that I really, and it would just went, and at some point the client said, just tell me, what is it? And she went into part two. This is really hard for me. Blah, blah. And the client said, what is it? Third round, the client said, look, just stop and tell me what you need. And she said, I was going to ask if you could give me an advance. She said, how much? And she told her, and the client was like, no problem. We can write a check. We'll get it over to you today. Sometimes you just need to ask. Really, it's that simple, because what's the worst that could have happened? The worst that could have happened is the client said no. And that doesn't mean you're going to lose them as a client. Maybe the client didn't have the money themselves, or maybe the client makes it a habit of they don't pay their bills in advance like that. They're on a retainer for a reason, whatever. Maybe they don't even give you a reason because they don't have to. Maybe it's just a no. But the great thing is that you get the gumption up to ask the right person for the thing that you need. And so just a clear and direct ask is what you want to get to when you find the right person after you determine what it is that you actually need. This is a big one. Pay attention. You're going to write this one down. Accept the help. Accept the help. Does that sound like, well, why wouldn't you? Because many of us have been in situations where we didn't even need to ask. The person already knew we were in need. They knew we needed support, and they offered. And some people will do oh no, I couldn't take it from you. Oh no, but. And all of that, instead of just saying, wow, I really appreciate that you saw that I had a need that you could fill and that you're willing to do that. I so appreciate it. Be thankful and grateful and accept the help. And sometimes people do that even when they've asked. They ask for the support. They ask for the thing that they need. And then it's like, oh, I do need this, but I didn't expect you to do it because I know you're struggling too, and you to do. Accept the help. Get over the guilt, get over the fear, and receive it with gratitude. Be gracious and grateful, because you just got an answered prayer, a blessing, a question, whatever it was, it just got answered. Someone laid it right in front of you, and now you are backing out of your own request. So learn to accept it when it's offered. And then commit to following through with whatever it is that you were going to do, right? Engage fully in whatever that thing is. If it was something that you actually needed, if it was finances for help, if it was, whatever the support or the help was that you needed, make sure that you take full advantage of it and be very appreciative of it. And at some point you'll be able to pay it forward to somebody else, right? So, where asking for help can really matter when it comes to a breakup or divorce. Things like, I should be over this by now. I got to figure this out on my own. No, you actually don't have to figure this out on your own. There are resources available that you can get so that you don't have to figure all of these things out on your own. Sometimes we can isolate. I'm going to use the term overfunction, right? It's almost like you just want to power through. It's like, all I got to do is get through this. If I can just get through this paperwork, if I can just get through this next meeting with the divorce or the divorce lawyer or the mediator, or this next meeting, or picking up our child or dropping off, if I can just get through this next thing. And sometimes you can benefit from having a professional who can help you really kind of get your life organized and get you a little more settled and grounded so that you're thinking clearly when you are going through a breakup or a divorce, or shortly after when you're still dealing with some of the aftermath of it. You want to be as calm and as clear-headed as possible, because making decisions when you're tired, stressed out, mentally drained, that is not a good time to be making decisions that need to be made at this point in your life. So figure out who can support you through that, and you might want to tap into that. Divorce can be really disorienting. I don't need to tell you if you've already been through a difficult one. It can really just shake you to your core, and your routines can get blown out of the water. Your identity could feel, your identity could be changing. Like who you were during the course of that relationship and the person you are right now and the person you're becoming may look really different when you look back on them. And that is likely for a really good reason. It may be time for you to make those changes in your life. And so you really do want to create a support team that can be around you. And you need to know who are the people in that support team. What are their strengths? What are they there to help you to do when you're asking for that help? And one of the things that I talk about in my book, Divorce is Not a Destination. Yeah, I have it here. One of the things that I talk about in my book, and one of the things that I work with women on in my program, is knowing how to design or curate that support team. Understand that you are not weak because you're struggling right now. Because things feel a little more difficult than they normally do, even if you're feeling a little bit of overwhelm or a lot of overwhelm, that doesn't mean you're weak. That means you're going through a transition, and change is often uncomfortable. So this is uncomfortable. You're not failing just because you need support or guidance. Asking for help is what's going to move you from feeling like you're just surviving to you getting to a place of healing and feeling like you're thriving. Doing it by yourself is going to make it take longer, and it's probably going to feel more difficult. It's not just getting through the difficult stuff. You also want to have people there to celebrate with you when you move through this and your life starts looking different. It starts feeling different. You want to have people who've been there with you who can support that as well. You want to go from feeling this pain and hurting to get to a place where you are rebuilding, and you're rebuilding joy into your new life, right? So you want to go from this quiet, I can handle this all by myself, they don't need to know, they'll see when things get different. You don't have to do all of that alone. Have somebody for different things that can support you where you are when you need it with the right thing. And one of the reasons that I talk about the Joy Act, this show is actually called the Joy Act, because that act is A.A.C.T. It stands for accountability, alignment, communication, and trust. But I wanted women to think about going through the end of something, the end of the relationship, the end of their marriage, and coming through it not just as, oh, the next phase of my life, or this fourth quarter or third quarter or whatever your age bracket would put you in. But I want you to look at it as, this is the Joy Act. I am going to create the Joy Act of my life. This is the part of my life where I embed joy into everything that I'm doing, that I get up in the morning and I'm excited about getting up. The people, the relationships that I have in my life are those kinds of relationships that energize you. This is what I wanted, is to give you structure and a path to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and community and the coaching that I know I wish I had when I was going through my divorces. So asking for help is not the end of your strength. It doesn't mean you just collapsed and I must be no more good because I need all this help. It's where your strength actually begins. And so I hope this episode, if you were sitting in the aftermath of your breakup or your divorce thinking, oh my gosh, I have to do all this by myself, I'm concerned or I'm having anxiety about asking for help, I'm going to give you a couple little things you can do right now. First, what's the one thing that you need right now? If you could think of one thing that you need right now, I want you to write it down. Okay? You can rewind this if you need to. Write that thing down. And then I want you to think, do you know somebody who can help you with that? Or do you need to look for professional support to get whatever that thing is that you wrote down? And then how do you ask for it? Write a sentence out. What I need is, and write that thing. And the reason I need it is because of. Like, what is it going to help you do if you get this thing that you need, that thing that you feel like you need? And then figure out who you need to ask. And maybe you don't know that person yet. It may not be somebody in your circle. Maybe you need to look for professional support. And if that's the case, looking for professional support doesn't cost you anything. Okay. You can actually look for free. The only thing it's going to cost you is time. And I can almost promise you, if you go about the process of just looking, even that will have you feeling a little bit differently, because you know internally, you know psychologically that you're actually taking a step in a direction to grow yourself and to support yourself and move yourself through this. And so even that act of looking for support is going to help you. Just looking for the person that you might ask to help you is likely to bless you. So I want to thank you for joining me for this episode. I hope it has helped you. I want you to put something in the comments below. Where are you in your breakup or divorce process? If you've already been through it, what were some of the things that you needed help with? And where did you get it? And if you are in a place right now where watching this episode has made you go, I really do need help. What do you need help with? Type it in the chat. Thanks for being here. I want you to have a wonderful rest of your day, your evening. And remember, it might be the end of something, but you are on the precipice of a new beginning, full of joy. And so I want you to go out and act in joy. This is your time. I'm going to say it. You're going to hear me say this a lot. It's due you o'clock. Go out and act in joy.